Kia ora, my darlings. We are joined by not Abby this time. Scandal. Very special Siska correspondent that you may already know, or you've definitely read because I post her shit all the time in the newsletter. We have Sacha Judd, our chief Harry Styles correspondent and sort of all-around fandom expert and CEO. Hello, Sacha.
Hello, Siska Hood. It's so nice to be here.
I should also say bestie because it's going to become very clear Sacha and I know each other very well. We spend a lot of time together. Actually, if you tuned into the first episode of the podcast, you'll know that I surprised Abby with tickets to Harry Styles in Melbourne, and I said that my friend Sacha actually got them, and that is this Sacha.
That's me.
So we're here to talk about the state of fandom because it is kind of the first thing we bonded over. I saw something that Sacha, I saw a slideshow that you had used behind you in a speech, and it was all about Harry Styles and One Direction and how the skills you learn in a fandom are transferable.
Yeah.
And I have never felt more seen, and I know that a lot of people in the world feel that way that have seen that. So I think we shouldn't even start there. We should start with how you got into fandom and also like how you kind of became a fandom expert.
Okay.
It's insane.
Well, I guess then I have to confess that I'm very old.
Okay.
We are cross-generational besties.
Yeah. And you know what? It works, guys.
It works for us. And so I got into fandom when I first got on the internet, which was when we first got the internet at home, which is way back in the 90s. And like many people who encountered the internet for the first time, I just went looking for stuff that I was into.
Yeah.
And so it was this big wild world of now I can suddenly talk to anyone or, you know, read stuff from all over the world. And I was quickly bored of what's happening on the New York Times.
Yeah.
And so I just went looking for people who were into the same stuff as me. And for me, that was at the time The X-Files. I was super into the TV show, The X-Files. And so I wound up in what was at that stage Usenet groups, chatting about The X-Files and then reading fan fiction about The X-Files. And
I love that.
That was my entree into what's called transformative fandom. So that's the fangirls, gender neutral, who like to not just engage with a piece of work, but also transform it in some way. So write fiction about it, create art about it, podfic, all kinds of creative endeavours. And that's been my fandom journey ever since, has been hanging out in those spaces online.
Yeah. And you've engaged with them quite heavily. You are kind of a low-key, well-known fan fiction writer.
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I go that far. But
no, but you know, like in meaningful ways. You know how like I was reading Wattpad when I was younger, and I would like wait for the next chapter of this unknown person. But to me, it was like,
it's the best thing in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, a new chapter dropping of your favourite story. Amazing.
And it was very like, I mean, I didn't have the words for it. I didn't know what transformative fandom was back then, but was very like this thing. And for me, it was One Direction. And it has, like, I've watched all the video diaries, I've watched all the performances, they're on tour, I've got all the magazines, whatever. I actually need more. I actually need more. And so that was like my awakening. Yeah. But when I was doing that, and I want to pick your brains, I actually want to talk a little bit about this. It was the most undercover, embarrassing, mortifying motherfucking, like, if this got out at school, I would literally have to not show up for weeks.
100%.
Thing. And now it's not. Yeah. Now it is a badge of honor that people wear. But I wonder, like, when do you think that changed? Was it like that for you as well? Like a hidden?
Totally hidden. Yeah. And for me, it was because of my job. I used to be a lawyer, and I worked at big international law firms doing serious law business. And the idea that people knew that this was something I wanted to do in my spare time was mortifying to me. My greatest fear was sort of accidentally hitting print on a story in the office and having it spit out of the communal printer or something terrible like that.
Okay, I mean, that still would make me... I'm sorry, I'd have to die.
I kept my fandom life and my professional life really separate. And that was true, I think, for pretty much everybody. And there was a bunch of reasons for that. One was that fandom was still operating in a real legal grey area. So
yeah, actually,
the whole kind of, if you ever read stories written back then, you'll find that the disclaimer always starts out with the author going, "Please don't sue me. I'm just a student. I don't have any money."
So cute, just like begging.
Yeah, yeah. And that was because there was a period in the late 90s and the early 2000s when the studios were clamping down and, issuing cease and desist notices to fan fiction archives and whatever, because they were like, this is our IP. We don't want people writing horny stories about Harry Potter. So this is something that we're going to try and stamp out. Some authors hated it. So Anne Rice, who wrote the Interview with the Vampire novels, she hated fan fiction. She was really clear about that. She didn't want anyone using her characters in their own stories. So I think there was a sense that, like, not only was it kind of considered embarrassing, but also maybe it wasn't legally okay. And so it was just something you really did on the DL.
And in the age of user-generated content, it kind of feels like now an author, I mean, I could be wrong, an author or someone might be flattered to have things like their work, or maybe like a Gen Z or a millennial author would be like, yes, I want people to be transformed.
Yeah, I think a lot of authors who have sort of grown up in those spaces or adjacent to those spaces think it's cool or expected. I think I've seen some authors be quite cautious that they're totally happy that it's happening. They just don't want people to be sending it to them because it puts them in this really difficult situation then if they're trying to write sequels or other, like, did I see your story? Are you going to sue me later? It all becomes a bit of a minefield. But most authors I've seen are sort of stoked and obviously increases engagement with the property. TV shows, movies, they are leaning into a lot of that kind of stuff far more so than in the past. But you asked me when I thought it changed. I don't know if I could point to any one thing. Certainly, I mean, I started talking about my fandom life publicly when I stopped being a lawyer, which was in 2015. And at that stage, I was like, okay, well, the job I have now is fine with me talking about these sorts of things. Yeah. So I'm not going to keep those parts of my life separate anymore. And that talk that you were referencing was one of the first conference talks I gave, which was called How the Tech Sector Could Move in One Direction. And it was about how we are overlooking a pipeline of young women in STEM who are teaching themselves all of these skills in fandom spaces but don't want to put it on their CV or, talk about it publicly. And as both you and I have written about or spoke about recently, that's not true now, right? Like HBO's hiring the fangirls to make trailers. And so what changed between 2015 and now? I think it's that our experience of the internet changed, and everyone who's come online in that era has come online in a platform era. And so their experience of the internet is TikTok, it's Insta, it's X, the everything app. It's, but that's their experience of being online. And so they don't really have a distinction between on and off main. And I think everyone is doing their fandom on main because that's the internet to them, is just their social accounts.
That is so true, because when you say the internet, I only think of
platforms,
the social media, like social media internet.
Yeah.
But so before that,
we had all kinds of fandom-specific spaces. I mean, you would have started on Tumblr, which is still, I think, a really fandom-specific space. Yes. And you will prize that broken website from my cold dead hands. I love everything about it. But there were specific fandom spaces. So, back in the day, it would have been on mailing lists, and then it was in Yahoo groups, and then it was in LiveJournal, and then it was on early Tumblr. But you went looking for a community. You weren't doing your fandom
at the same
time as everything else. Right?
Yeah. Wow. What do you think's better? What era is better?
I mean, I love that we can be bold and proud about our fandom now. Yeah. I think that's a great leap forward. But I think everyone doing fandom on main is causing some real containment breaches that and I'm sure we'll get to talking about some of those. Yeah. And I think that the problem is fans and fan culture and fan communities have grown up with their own kind of norms and etiquette and ways of treating each other, and those are special. And when everything's happening in the glare of the public eye, I think that some of that's overlooked. Yeah. And I think it's sad that we've lost the sort of more closed spaces where people could grow up a little and learn to be baby fans. And maybe we wouldn't be making some of the same speedrun mistakes over and over again.
Speaking of sort of being baby fans, I was a One Direction fan like a long time before you were actually a Harry Styles fan. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into Harry.
Sure.
And then the Harry or the One Direction to hockey pipeline, which has now come full circle because we have heated rivalry, which has then made me not so much a hockey fan, but definitely a heated rivalry.
Hockey adjacent.
Certainly hockey adjacent. Certainly like I'd now go and watch a game. But talk me through your journey because that's fascinating to me.
So I came to One Direction sort of as a spectator in, it would have been 2014, 2015. So it was toward the end of the band. I didn't get to go to any of their shows, but I watched the last tour, through periscopes basically. And the way I came to it was really just paying attention to what the fans were doing online. And it started out as all things do because I like diving down extremely strange rabbit holes. I had years earlier found myself in a rabbit hole about the Larry Stylinson conspiracy theory.
Pro Larry or anti Larry?
Well, at the time, I thought that whole thing was kind of cute and hilarious. I was like, look at this. This is really funny, and you could go back and watch all these old videos and go, isn't it cute? They look like they might be holding hands. And then I was sort of wowed by the sheer creative power of that fandom and all of the amazing art and the stories and whatever. And like many things in my life, when I'm down a rabbit hole, I just want to yap to all my friends about it. And so I was going through this phase where I was sort of like, every time I saw someone, I was like, oh, let me tell you about the One Direction fandom. And then it sort of became this thing where people would sort of say to me, but you don't really like One Direction, do you? And I had such a knee-jerk reaction to that because, demographically, I was sort of too old. I mean, who's too old for a band? Nobody.
Yeah.
But they were like, you're not really getting into this British boy band, are you? And if someone tells me that I can't like something, then I'm just going to double the fuck down. So I went through this phase where I only replied to tweets with gifs of One Direction, and I, was constantly sending people stuff about One Direction.
One D out of spite.
Yeah, one D out of spite. Absolutely. But of course, you can't do it out of spite for very long before you just become a genuine fan, 100%. Which is what happened to me. But it was right at the end of the band's run, and Harry was my fave. Yeah. And so out of that, started following his solo career.
And for the record, everyone, now we're not pro Larry Stylinson.
No, actually, I went back to the same conference many years later, and I did a sort of a mea culpa talk in which I said, that whole talk was about how things break at scale, how everything starts out working quite well, and as soon as you scale something up, whether it's a social media platform or a company or whatever, the wheels start to fall off. And I was talking about that and saying, what I had realized in the intervening years is there is no such thing as a cute conspiracy theory because it starts out fun and then you just wind up on this path where you believe that like every paparazzi shot is staged and every person holding hands is a stunt and you're being lied to all the time. Yeah, and it's such a short leap from there to QAnon or much more dangerous political conspiracy thinking. And then suddenly there is no truth in your life anymore. And I think that's a bad way to live. So,
100%. Yeah. We've been talking recently on the pod about what happens when no one believes anything anymore.
Yeah.
And how even though we are so primed to question everything, sometimes it's like, yeah, but guys, we have to decide on some sort of reality.
Yeah.
Or else everything's fucked.
Yeah. So to be clear, I love shipping. Yeah. I think it's cute that we imagine romantic relationships for people and write stories about them. What I am not okay with is what we call tin hatting in fandom, and that is when you think you know the truth about someone that you've never met.
Yeah. And then force them to stop being friends in real life and on the camera, and it actually ruins it for everyone.
Okay, so big Harry Styles solo fan. I've been to see him live all over the world. And I've got a group chat of former One Direction, now Harry besties, who
so much.
I've been chatting to for I don't know, nearly 10 years now, I guess. And
like real life besties.
Yeah, real life besties.
So cute.
We've all met each other in real life, and they're all in the States. I'm the only one that's lurking in this part of the world. Okay. And so when COVID hit and Harry put his tour on hold, one of the things that we sort of noticed was we were missing that catalyst for gathering together. Yeah. Like when he's touring, there's something so lovely about getting in a group chat and sort of going, what's he wearing tonight? Yeah. And what's the set list? And what cute thing did he do on stage that everybody's posted a video of? And there's lots of things like that. Like tomorrow's the Met Gala and we'll all be like looking for the photos and seeing what people are wearing. I was about to say,
I'm feeling this way about Hudson and Connor right now.
Sure,
like, we've run out of content and we're in a group chat with some friends that also love Hated Rivalry.
And we've been waiting for something to happen.
We've been waiting. And tomorrow hopefully it will. But it's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So you needed something
So we needed something while Harry was, not touring and nothing else much was happening. And there had been a prior fandom migration into ice hockey that had happened in like 2012, 2013, and it was post Fandom and Pop Slash. So that's like people who were into either the American boy bands NSYNC and Boyzone or the more emo bands My Chemical Romance and Panic at the Disco and whatever. And a bunch of those fans had moved into ice hockey. So there were good authors writing ice hockey stories. Yeah. And even though I had never watched a game, didn't know anything about the players, occasionally a mutual would post a link to a story and go, you don't need to know anything about hockey, you should just read this story. It's really good. So we had all individually read the odd hocky story where we were like, this one's got an amazing time loop in it, or this one's, So
sure, you're reading it for the craft.
Well, I mean, if you don't know anything about the sport or the players, you're just reading it for the narrative, right? And anyway, the NHL had been on pause for COVID and they decided to try and sort of resurrect the end of their season, and they bubbled all of the remaining playoff teams in a single hotel in Toronto, which was called Hotel X, which was just the silliest, horniest thing that the NHL could have done. Like all of these men who spend an entire season fighting each other on the ice, literally, in one hotel. Yeah. Like you can just imagine the fanfic. Yeah. And and so we were like, well, that's pretty funny. Maybe we should get into hockey. Yeah. And so, very much a joke at the start. But as you and I always say, no gatekeeping. Doesn't matter how you get there. No. And, this many years on, we're all proper for whatever whatever meaning of that there is, fans. Two of my girlfriends have learned to play. They play regularly. Three of them in a fantasy league together. We've all got, our favourite teams and watch games regularly.
Were you guys aware of Heated Rivalry when you were watching?
Yeah, we read Heated Rivalry, the book, when it came out. Because, I mean, if you're reading and writing hockey fan fiction, then Heated Rivalry was a natural crossover,
Because it felt like this phenomena for me, even I'm fandom adjacent, crept up on me. But for you guys, did you track, did you know when it got sort of...
Oh, yeah, when it was going to be made and then the casting announcements and, all the way through.
So when you first saw the casting announcements, were you like, this fits or this doesn't fit or I can't imagine this?
I'll be honest, when I first saw them, I thought this is going to be cheap. Yeah. You know when you see something
and it was cheap.
It was cheap, but what we didn't realise was that Jacob Tenney's a god and managed to make it look cinematic on a $2 budget.
Literally.
Yeah. So if you've seen their first casting headshots and stuff, it was kind of like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. And I think there's always a bit of a tendency, we always group watch the things when they come out, whether it's red, white and royal blue or the idea of you or whatever. And there's always just a huge cringe element to it. It's kind of like, oh, I don't know about this. And so we definitely were headed into the TV adaptation of Hated Rivalry thinking it was going to be cringe.
And then did you immediately watch it and be like, oh wait, this is actually fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the world was like,
yeah. And I got a text from Rob that day going, you just must be the smug must be nuclear powered right now. The I told you so of being into hockey.
Yes, because it's really is well, I was into this before everyone else was. And it's like, well...
you never know which thing is going to break through. Mean, I would not have expected it to be this, put it that way.
Well... No, but then when you were talking about how when people get obsessed with something and then start doing their own transformative works, it puts a lot of pressure on the author to then, so is it Rachel Reed?
Rachel Reed's the author, yeah.
She's writing another book.
Yes.
That gives me stress.
I don't know how you would do it now. like
everyone's going to say they've come up with it.
The property is no longer your own at this point. And I think already this week she's sort of digging herself various holes because she wants to keep talking about these characters. And I just want to say to her, girl, just let them go. Like they belong to the world now.
They do.
And I think back about J.K. Rowling before she went
batshit crazy.
Yeah. She used to drop these nuggets like years later, and it would sort of be this, oh, by the way, Dumbledore was gay. Or, the worst one was when there was something that was released through Pottermore, and it was like wizards used to just go to the bathroom in the street and then vanish it with their wands. And you're like, girl,
you don't need to be saying that.
Nobody needed to even imagine that. What are you doing?
If they're a wizard, then surely they don't even need to go to the toilet. Just magic yourself away the urge.
So I just think sometimes look, I don't think I would have the strength. If I was Rachel Reid, I'd be like, of course I want to answer every question and I want to do every interview. But, from the outside, I'm just like, just let it go.
For your own sake. But, a lot of artists are pretty good at, especially singer-songwriters, about saying once they release something into the world, it's no longer theirs.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
And that's why I
hate
this sort of modern tendency with music to be dissecting lyrics to try and find some sort of truth in them, like this is a song about this ex-boyfriend or this song means this. And it's like...
Unless it's quite obvious.
Well, sure. But also that's not what music's about.
Yeah. And then also when people try to take singer-songwriters to court because of their lyrics, and it's like, well, we also can't be doing that.
I know, because it's sort of crazy. I spent some time today going through the Chris Knox archive at the Turnbull Library here in Wellington for something else we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
And he writes this amazing New Zealand song called Not Given Lightly, which is a love song. And, the first few verses, you're able to sort of picture that as being your love song. And then in the final verse, he sings, this is a love song for John and Leisha's mother. And it becomes like this really specific story that's then for someone else. And it's like, it doesn't detract from my enjoyment of the song or the things that I project on it. I just think we shouldn't be looking for a single version of of truth in something. It's art.
It's so funny. We've gone from saying there is one reality to there is one reality to saying
there's no truth.
And you know what? There's no single truth.
Sorry,
in art.
We're not going to be consistent today.
And you know what? We're hypocrites. Okay, so famously, I'm not going to talk about this because I talk about it all the time, but I have built a business off of being a fan of things. And it is, in my opinion, the best way to build a business because you really care about it. No one's funding it. And it means it's very, a word I hate, authentic.
Yeah.
Sacha, you have recently built/launched a business with some friends of the pod, actually. Some friends of Siska.
Yeah.
You guys remember Slam Dunk. He and Sash, Dream Team, and some other people that we love around here, have teamed up to launch something called Lume, which is for the fans, about music.
Fans.
I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, so you're so right. Like, I think I've spent a lot of time in and around startups. I was a startup lawyer and then I was a startup investor for many years. And I always said I was never going to start my own business because I think that sort of work makes you so risk averse. You're like, oh no, I would never do it myself. But sometimes you encounter an idea that's just like,
perfect for you.
And this is it. And so Lume is about getting back to the album in music. And so for so long, we have had streaming platforms that are determined to curate our listening experience around singles and playlists and algorithms. And that's great. It's lovely to be able to chuck on a cute Sounds of Ibiza playlist in the background while you're, painting your nails on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
But along the way, it sort of separated us from the thing that musicians care about, which is the album. And they spend all this time thinking about which songs make the album and which songs don't and what order they go in and the photography and the artistry around the album and what it is that they're wanting to get across. And then that all gets chopped up and lost on the streaming platforms. And so we said, well, what if we could go back to buying albums, buying them and owning them, which is pretty countercultural in this subscription age.
Yeah.
But what if for the price of a CD or cheaper than vinyl, both of which, people are buying a lot of again, you could get a beautiful digital experience that comes not just with the core album, but with everything else the artist wants to bundle around it. So it might be behind the scenes photography or videography. It could be their voice notes while they were making the album. It might be their text, their director's commentary, just all of this extra stuff that really serious fans of an artist would be into.
As a fan, as a Gen Z fan who has grown up with albums when I was younger and then have definitely fallen into the certain people will love a whole album, very few and far between. But I'm very much in the like singles. I love, a single, and I am a like playlist girly, love my curation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and look, we don't want to take that away from you.
But the bit that's exciting to me as a fan is, well, first of all, I'm assuming that you're working with artists who have said that they want this and they're going to benefit in some way.
Yeah, that's the hugest part for us. We all know that the industry is pretty busted and it doesn't really work for anyone anymore, but it particularly doesn't work for artists. And so the way this works is you buy the album off us and 80% of the net revenue goes to the artist, so and their partners. And so it's among the highest royalty rates in the industry, and it's a really direct way for fans to make sure that we all want to support our faves.
Yeah.
We don't want to buy a crappy T-shirt and know that $2 of that is going to the person that we stand. We want to find a way to support them directly, and we know that we're getting crunched on every direction, whether it's by Ticketmaster or by touring platforms or whatever. But it's an ugly sort of space.
Yeah.
And this is trying to get back to the idea that what if you bought an album off the artist that you love and they got paid properly? Revolutionary. It feels like maybe that used to be the way it happened, and then we just really fucked it up with everything. So does an artist come to you and you work together, or you go to them, you work together, and then you go on an app and buy a Lume? Yeah.
Is that what it'll be called?
Yeah.
And then so you get not only the album, but then you click somewhere and it also comes along with handwritten notes or videos from them.
You're just going to press the go deeper button and it's going to take you in. You might get alternate versions of songs. There might be, covers they did in the live lounge, or an interview they did on Radio New Zealand, or archival material. And it could be new releases, or it might be a legacy re-release. You might have an anniversary album that you loved when you were younger and the artist decides to release a 10-year anniversary or whatever, and it comes with archival material from when they made the album. So it's really up to the artist what they want to share.
That's really
cool.
So
we built a platform that's really flexible for them to do that.
Okay. Who's your dream, Lume? Who would be your dream person to
look? I'm
manifest?
So excited by the artists that we've
Who have we got?
Really
Yeah, can you talk about any?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bic Ronger is one of our launch artists, which I'm so excited about. I've loved her all the way through. But we've also got we've got some classics like Bic, like The Exponents.
Oh my God.
But we've also got, what I'm loving is the emerging artists.
Yeah.
So Geneva AM, who just won the Tate for Best Independent Debut.
Oh.
Ernie Bell, Phaser Days, who won Album of the Year last year. So these are all New Zealand artists for your international audience, and that's deliberate. We're doing a test launch in the New Zealand market so that we can make sure that the product's all exactly as it should be before we go global. But we're already lining up Australia to happen quite quickly thereafter, and then the world.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so the way you'll hear about Lumes is from your favourite artists. This is really a product for an artist to offer to their biggest fans, and
so they'll be like, guys, I've done this thing where you can actually support me but also get all these extras.
Yeah, that's right. Really cool. And so feel free to hit up your faves and say, release me a Lume.
Oh my God. Imagine it. Hey, Harry Styles. Hey, the 1975.
Yeah.
You took a song off your latest.
I don't think it's going to move the needle for Harry, but it's definitely going to move the needle for your faves who are workhorse touring artists, who are young artists, who are, emerging, all of the people that you really want to say, hey, I think you're awesome and I want you to have a great career.
That one day it should be more than just musicians. It could be Cameo. actors can have them.
And have looms.
Actors can have looms, yes.
You just want to buy a Hudson Williams loom.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to see what he's annotated on a script when it's like, and now you're going to bleep, bleep, bleep. Oh, that's really cool because I do buy like, for example, the 1975, they let out like an anniversary edition of a record.
Yeah.
And I like looking in the sleeves at all the bonus shit you get.
Yeah. It's the digital experience of that sort of box set feel. And I think the important thing is it's not going to replace all your music listening. Like this is for the thing that you're a fave of.
Yeah.
You know? And it's the thing that like, you know, what we do when Harry drops a new album, you drop everything you're doing and you listen to it all the way through.
Yeah.
And there's only some artists that you'll feel that way about. But for those artists, you'll really feel that way about them, you know? And you want to spend that time and you want to experience the album the way that they made it for you.
How do you feel like you and I, you probably more so than me, get asked to consult on fandom things like this, and people, often it ends up you or I having to be like, it sounds like you're just trying to take money from the fans.
Yeah.
Where does this sit in that sort of argument?
Yeah, I think the thing about Lume is we're just trying to find a way for fans to give their money directly to artists that they love.
Yeah, see, that's what's different from the corporations doing it.
That's why it feels different to me. Fans love
Artist
merch.
first is cool. Yeah.
And there aren't great merch options these days. Yeah. You know, you and I have talked about that before. It's like often the official versions are either wildly overpriced or not that great.
Did you see Lorde just posted bootleg merch on her
No,
Instagram?
did you?
She was like in two minds about it because she's like, it's fucking cool, but it's bootleg.
Yeah.
I think it was Lorde.
And the problem with the bootleg stuff is bootleg used to be often fan designed and fan made. So you could go on to like Etsy and find like a fan artist who'd done some incredible stickers or had made a great sweatshirt or whatever, and you'd be like, boom, I get to support a fan and get some cool shit.
Yeah.
And of course, unfortunately now what happens is that stuff just gets ripped off and made by Timo, and Etsy's full of dropshippers, and so that
the
industry, the magic's gone. So, you know, I think as fans we want something, we want to pay for something, and we want that to feel like an authentic experience, and it's about connection with the artist. Like at the moment, if you buy an album, the 1975 don't know that you've bought that album.
Yeah.
But, you know, Geneva AM will know that you bought her loom.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And she'll be able to, like, send you deets if she's having a listening party or wants to do pre-sale for loom holders, or cool. Just share more of her process. So
it kind of feels like, it reminds me of two experiences. One, when you know an artist right before they blow up and you get that access to them, that makes you feel really like
those of us who owned Lorde's EP before anyone else had heard of her.
Yes. And it also feels like in the early days of One Direction, like when social media was first coming up, artists were on it all the time for the reason of engaging with fans. Obviously, they don't need to do that anymore, but I remember like they'd do like follow back sessions and Twitch streams and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, you felt like you actually had a connection with them, whereas now people talk about community and blah, 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 and like they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, and to come back to your point about like people trying to sort of tap into fandom, I think the thing that I get frustrated with at the moment is a lot of people who are sort of taking this point and look like at them like the zoo animals approach to writing about fandom or to marketing to fandom, and it's like, fans see fandom as their identity. It's not just a sticker on their water bottle. And you're like, oh my God. Like, first of all, it's really, really infantilizing. Second of all, it's such a shallow kind of take on what fandom is and all the different things it can be. And it's not new. They're sort of looking at it as if this thing has sprung fully formed out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's like, come on now.
No, you wrote a really good essay actually that you can go and read on Sacha's newsletter. Want to plug your newsletter?
Oh, my newsletter is called What You Love Matters, because I really believe that whatever you're a fan of is important.
Yeah. And she writes really good shit, and most weeks, or more, like quite often I'll message her and be like, can I actually republish this? And she's always like, yeah, you can, which is why she's our senior Harry Styles / fan correspondent. I have a few more quick questions for you.
Yeah.
I want to know, if you're a fan in 2026, where do you go? Like, the internet's hard. Where do you go?
Yeah,
where
the
do you
internet
think
is hard. It's still Tumblr for me.
Yeah.
there's a few reasons for that. Tumblr's not algorithmic, so it doesn't sort of function with any of the same broken incentives that any of the other social platforms do. Mm-hmm. You can just go on there and whatever your latest rabbit hole is, you just type in heated rivalry and you can start following people who are posting about it and build yourself a little dash of great gift makers and people who are recommending great stories and
you control your feed.
You control your feed.
Yeah.
And over time, when you spend a bit of time on Tumblr and you get some mutuals who you really respect and who are kind of into the same stuff as you, like that becomes like a really serendipitous way of discovering new things.
Yeah.
You know, because you're kind of like, why does this person who I otherwise respect keep posting gifts from this hot firefighter show?
Yeah.
And then eventually you go and watch the hot firefighter show and, you know, then you're down another rabbit hole. And I love that. I love that discovery piece, which is so hard to do on algorithmic platforms.
And also it sounds like it's encouraging you to build connections with the people that you're following. With like they don't even have to be like parasocial or social, genuinely just watching what they do.
Yeah.
And being like,
and I think the other thing about Tumblr is it's still all pseudonyms. No one's over there posting under their government name. And that means that it's like delightful, whimsical,
safe,
a bit silly, safe, and you just block anyone or unfollow anyone who's not fun. And so you just get to have a really lovely time instead of everywhere else.
Next question. What is your reaction and what is the correct reaction to Harry Styles being engaged?
There is no correct reaction.
There are some incorrect reactions.
Oh, there definitely are some incorrect reactions. Look, if he's happy, I'm happy. That's the correct reaction.
That's how I feel. And I also feel like everyone be normal about this on the internet challenge. Starts now.
Yeah. No one was ever going to be normal about Harry getting engaged, but I have seen some truly unhinged people. And, you know, look, I was on a pod recently talking about real person fiction and I was chatting a bit about tin hats and people getting too concerned about what Hudson and Connor are doing in their real lives. And I said the whole point of fandom is it's supposed to be fun.
Well, exactly.
It's supposed to be fun. And if you wake up in the morning and you see a paparazzi photo of Harry's fiance and it makes you feel a bit sick and you tell me you are not having a good time. That's not what fandom is supposed to be about.
That's kind of why I wanted to focus this conversation not on like, because I feel like we are seeing a lot online of the dark side of fans, like the bad side of fans. I was
toxic fandom.
Yeah, other people are talking about that. We don't really need to do that here because I think even though we know fandom, we also know it's like, it's not that deep. Like it is deep, but it's like
And look, people have been writing toxic fandom stories since the 1950s. Like that's also not new, you know? So at the moment it's about parasociality. A few years ago it was about Stan Wars on Twitter, and a few years before that it was about, you know, whatever. It's like people are always gonna there's always gonna be, you know. And look, every large community of people produces toxic takes and bad outcomes, you know.
And dare I say, there's a lot worse communities doing a lot worse things than fan communities.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
and
there is.
We will talk about that on the usual episodes of the Shit You Care About podcast where we actually talk about the news.
Yeah.
My last question for you that I've just thought of right now. Okay, if you, and I'm going to try do it with you, were to predict the next big heated rivalry-ish fandom thing, my instinct is to say something fantasy book related.
Right.
That
like
already
a
exists.
Fourth Wing adaptation or a Akatar adaptation. I don't know if those are in the works, probably.
They are. And I will be left out of them because I don't like it myself.
Yeah.
That's what
It's probably going to be that. I imagine it's going to be whichever romantasy property makes it to screen
and
first,
does something good,
I think.
With it.
Or my other pick might be one of the fanfics converted to fics, like Manacled to Alchemized, or, you know, like one of those ones that started out as fan fiction and then was republished as an original fiction. And maybe an adaptation of that.
And you'll have to tell me about that because I won't even know that. You'll be ahead of the curve.
I think
you'll be smug.
The hilarious thing is you can't see these things coming.
I know.
I mean, I was deep in Hockey Smart, and you wouldn't have paid me to give the opinion in October last year that the world would have fallen in love with heated rivalry. And I mean, that was just such a confluence of events.
I know.
Incredible director, taking romance material seriously for the first time, determined to, you know, give it its due on screen.
Non-hetero.
incredible cast of unknowns who brought their all. You know, like it was such a, lightning in a bottle.
It's literally generational.
Yeah.
Changing the game. Everyone, if you want to know more about Lume, what should they do?
Check out lumemusic.com. That's Lume.
Oh, yeah, Lume. Everyone, not the looms that are in Heated Rivalry.
Kinds of looms.
Are they looms or loons?
I'm a Canadian wolf birds.
Damn, I was going to say there's really good branding here, but two different things.
lumemusic.com. But yeah, just keep an eye out on your favourite artist socials.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be offering you the chance to buy one sometime soon.
And go and subscribe to Sacha's newsletter. It is in the show notes.
It is, yeah. And it's a mix of Harry Styles and Lego and Heated Rivalry and what's good on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's a real mix. But
if you like the internet and you want it to be good, or you want to inject a little bit of joy into your own internet, follow it, read it. It'll be in the show notes, so you'll be able to find it. Until next time you're in the newsletter, Sacha, I think that's us.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.